Roll call.
Chair Andobra,
I'm here.
Vice Chair Drix, absent. Catherine Van Arbor, absent. Carlos Garcia Quijano, absent. Jesus Hogan, absent. Amelia Rose,
Here.
Batik Kumba.
Here.
We have 3 present, 4 absent.
Okay, so we don't have a quorum
Oh,
now.
we don't have a quorum yet.
Okay, but we should get one later. I also want to recognize Priscilla de la Cruz, who has been nominated to join the ESTF, and her position just hasn't been voted on yet by the City Council. And we're still working on that, but just want to acknowledge that she's here as well, and will soon hopefully be a full ESTF member. We are again joined by a wonderful councilman. And if you could, I don't want to mispronounce your name, and I feel like I've done that multiple times before. So if you could introduce yourself so then I get it right, and then we'll welcome you. And I have your presentation teed up, and we're excited that you've returned.
Thank you so much for having me, Sue. It's Gonsalves, but if you botch it, it's totally fine. It's forgivable. I know that some of us have names that are particularly hard to pronounce, so don't worry. Thank you so much, by the way, for having me. I'm just super thrilled to be on. Can I get started, or should I wait? Or
and Sean, can you give me permission to share? It gave me the option, but now it said I'm disabled from sharing.
Sure. Which item are you going to present first of the ones that you sent me, just so I can keep track?
Oh yeah, I was going to present the presentation that I sent earlier today.
Oh, the most recent one that you sent? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, you should be able to share, and then the councilman will prompt you.
Yeah. Excellent. I'm sharing it as a PDF so I don't accidentally make any changes in the Google Doc.
Great. So we could probably move on to the next slide here. That's just the cover slide here. Great. Thanks so much, Sue. And thanks everyone for being on tonight this evening. So in November, we presented a resolution to the Environmental Sustainability Task Force requesting that the City of Providence do an inventory of single-use plastics to inform policy on a future ordinance to significantly reduce and eventually hopefully eliminate single-use plastics in city buildings. And based on that feedback, refinements were made to the initial resolution to include explicit language addressing the usage of single-use plastics, specifically in Providence public schools. I think that was a comment that was made by Baddick and other city-wide meal programs, as well as to make the explicit link between single-use plastics and fossil fuels. And so we can move on to the next slide here. And while that feedback was incorporated into the single-use plastic resolution, in partnership with the City of Providence's Office of Sustainability and Clean Water Action, we actually decided it would make more sense to broaden the resolution to extend environmentally preferable purchasing, not only to single-use plastic purchasing, but to all city purchasing. And this is something that, of course, the Office of Sustainability has been working on for quite some time, and we thought it would be a natural fit, and again, also broaden the resolution. So in sum, the resolution shifted from a resolution requesting that the City of Providence do an inventory of single-use plastics used in city-owned properties to a resolution regarding environmentally preferable purchasing, so an EPP policy for the City of Providence. And this broader approach helps us to really address not only single-use plastics, but all products containing neurotoxic chemicals in city-owned facilities. And so everyone received a copy, I believe, of the resolution, but the next slide essentially shows what's in the resolution. And we tried to just pare it down to a few clauses so that it was more accessible for folks. But essentially what the EPP policy would do, and Leah and Emily, feel free to jump in at any point, it would guide city staff in making purchasing choices that minimize negative impacts on human health and the environment. And the EPP policy would also help staff to reduce materials that are landfilled, especially single-use plastics. And these are also several other clauses that are a part of the resolution, including reducing greenhouse gas emissions, using unbleached or chlorine-free manufacturing processes, and of course using recycled wood and wood from sustainably harvested forests, etc. So all of that is in the resolution. The resolution also requests minimizing use of products containing neurotoxic chemicals. So that is also contained in the resolution. And lastly, it's this little heart here. It says, be it resolved that the City Council requests that the Office of Sustainability collaborate with the Purchasing Department, the Healthy Communities Office, the Providence School Department, and the Food Service Management Company to do a baseline assessment and inventory of product categories that pose the greatest threat to human health and the environment. And it also mentions here that it's further resolved that the City Council requests the City of Providence Office of Sustainability investigate and draft an environmental preferable purchasing policy. And so that's it in a nutshell. And the last slide is just to express our much appreciation to all of the partners. So Healthy Babies, Bright Futures has been working in conjunction with the Office of Sustainability on this, as well as Clean Water Action. We recently had a meeting with John Bernard and Michelle from Clean Water Action, and that was very informative. And we also would like to thank Leah Bamberger, of course, and Emily Koo, who are on this call, in the Racial and Environmental Justice Committee and the Environmental Sustainability Task Force. And we're hopeful that we can get your support on moving this initiative forward. So that is it in a nutshell. And I'm happy to either take questions or even let Emily or Leah jump in and provide some of their thoughts.
Emily or Leah, did you want to pop in? Emily, come off mute.
I think that was a great. Thank you so much, Councilman. That's a great summary. And I just would note the alignment with some of the great work that Clean Water Action and Healthy Babies, Bright Futures has been helping us do to think more broadly about how our purchasing power can help influence and improve on the environment and human health sides. Alignments with the climate justice plan are around just creating a healthy workplace and healthy community spaces, and of course, more broadly, healthy schools, building more markets for like a more circular economy here in Providence, as well as just leading by example more broadly in our purchasing.
Were you about to pop off mute, Leah? No pressure, cool.
No, I was looking for the little applause motion, but those are disabled.
I also just want to thank you, Councilman, because I am so impressed by what's in this resolution now, but also your commitment to this process to then work after you presented last time to then hear more feedback from the folks who were on your slide, like Leah's office and the Clean Water Action and the Racial and Environmental Justice Committee and all of those different groups. So I'm also just want to thank you for that you did some really thorough and quick follow-up to make this even stronger than it already was. Does anyone on the task? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for that, Sue. And I'm equally as grateful for everyone's flexibility and for truly the feedback. I think that's what made this process so robust, and having those ongoing conversations and getting people's insight and advice has really made this a really terrific process. So thank you all for that.
Awesome, thank you. I also want to acknowledge that Catherine Van Amberg and I think that's Jesus, even though it says Vatic. Jesus have also joined, so we should have a quorum at this point.
Sorry, I could not find the link in my email. And that was it.
Well, thanks for being here, Jesus. Awesome. Does anyone on the task force have any questions for the councilman?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say it looks great to me. It's like short, sweet, simple. I think it's great that it's more encompassing of different products. And I think it's just a great, hopefully an easy win for the city council and for the city to kind of do something that we can control to help push the city towards more sustainability. So I think it's great.
Thank you so much for that, Amelia.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, to me, it looks great, sounds great. And I appreciate you sharing it and coming back and doing that work to, like, you know, add in that feedback. I guess the question, maybe it's not for you, but it could be for like Emily and Leah. How does this work push forward the climate justice plan and the priorities in the climate justice plan and stuff like that?
Yeah, the work with Healthy Babies, Bright Futures has unfortunately not intersected with the REJC and the climate justice plan directly. But the places that I feel that it intersects is improving healthy community spaces, specifically the city as a workplace, in reducing neurotoxic chemicals in all the products that we purchase. More broadly, leading by examples in city-owned facilities and schools, which is not explicit in the lead by example, but I think leading by example in what kinds of products we purchase and what kind of economy we're promoting. And then the third was supporting a more circular economy can start with what the city is purchasing and what products and what vendors the city is prioritizing.
Yeah, and I can jump in here too and say I totally agree with Emily on that. Leading by example is crucial here. You know, the hazardous chemicals in City Hall, in fact, pose an unnecessary and avoidable threat to municipal employees. And when you think about city-owned buildings and some of the products that we're using, we should be promoting a green chemistry and really trying to eliminate those toxic chemicals, just broadly speaking in our global supply chain, but in city buildings. As we know, there are some really negative impacts to some of these toxic chemicals on the endocrine system. And we have to do everything that we can to eliminate things like BPAs or phthalates or polycarbonates. And in fact, if you think about, you know, polyvinyl chlorides that are found in plastic bottles, for example, or even phthalates for that matter, they're already banned for kids under 5. So really trying to broaden this and extend this and lead by example is crucial here. And that, I think, connects to the goals in the climate justice plan, but more broadly speaking, you know, really ensuring that we're protecting those in our community from climate injustice.
Any other questions or comments from the task force? And it doesn't look like there's any hands raised from the public. Oh, there's now. We can take a few questions from the public. Michael Bradley, it looks like your hand is up. So I'll allow you to talk, and then Katie Murphy. And this is specific public comment about this part of the agenda, not a future part. You have to unmute yourself, Michael.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
All right, great. So I think the...
Oh, and I should have said, please state your name for the record.
Okay,
we can
sure.
See it, but yeah.
Hi, my name's Mike Bradley. I'm a resident of Providence. So I think the initiative is absolutely right on. And I congratulate you, Councilperson, on your forwarding this. The two questions I would have, one, well, actually the one question, one comment. The one question would be, at what cost would this be to the city? And the general comment would be, how would you be able to pass and I guess initiate this initiative? There's a lot of initiatives that have been forwarded to try to reduce toxins in products, reduce certain chemicals at the city and state level. I think that it's a real challenge to get legislature to do the hard work and make difficult decisions about some of these commodity chemicals. The problem is you got it right. We need to think about green chemistry, but the chemical industry and the lobby is extremely powerful, and it's present here in Providence and Rhode Island. What do you see as some of the barriers and challenges to getting this through at the city level for the city buildings? But then I don't think you should stop there. I think we need a stronger movement to create an equity through healthy products. And have you thought about those challenges, John, and where to go to try to make sure this is successful? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for that, Michael. That's a really terrific question. Internally, I think we're going to do everything that we can to move this initiative forward. Obviously, there's a lot of conversations that I would need to have with fellow council members to get them on board. But truly, this is about leading by example. And if we can start in-house and really convince people of why it's so crucial that we're protecting our municipal employees, that's an opportunity for us to really broaden the conversation here. And while I know it's perhaps not on the top of people's minds that there are highly toxic chemicals in our homes and also in city buildings and more broadly in society, this is a great opportunity for us to be able to educate the greater public. And if we can push this initiative forward and really get our colleagues on board, I think that would be the starting point to something much, much bigger and greater.
Awesome.
But to your point, it won't be easy, but that's precisely why we're trying to move forward with this difficult work.
Yeah, and the Office of Sustainability and the Purchasing Department have started a bit of strategizing, and we'll certainly be working with the councilman in actually developing the policy to think about what our first steps are. Likely, they will be editing existing requests for proposals that are about to be renewed by the purchasing department to be a bit more inclusive of reducing neurotoxins and other environmental and health values. And most of them that we start with will likely be cost neutral as well.
Yes, that's a great point, Emily. And to piggyback off of that, I think this is an opportunity for us to queue up or tee up our the ordinance, the environmental preferable purchasing policy. And so that is, I think this is sort of the first step to that as well. So if we can get a resolution on the books, get an affirmation from other council members, that can hopefully seamlessly lead to an ordinance on this. So we're working fast and furiously to hopefully get that done in the next couple of weeks, but we are certainly doing everything that we can to push this initiative forward.
Great, thanks. It looks like we have two more hands, Katie and Doug. So I'll take Katie off mute and then Doug, and then I think we might see if there's a vote of the task force for support. Just make sure we have time for everything on the agenda. So Katie, you should be able to unmute yourself now. Katie, you have to, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, my computer froze right when you unmuted me.
It happens.
Katie Murphy, Providence resident. Just a quick comment. Forgive me if I missed this in the presentation, but I didn't see anything specifically about PFAS. And just in terms of thinking about limiting harmful chemicals in the products that the city is purchasing, I think it would be a big mistake to move away from single-use plastics only to end up with materials that contain PFAS in them.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm sure that with the people involved in that, that's, you know, been brought up and thought about, but I think it's important.
Sure, and I think as we move forward too with the ordinance, that's where we're going to get really into the nuances of this. I know the resolution does mention some chemicals specifically, but there are so many, right? Vinyl chlorides, mercury, phthalates, as I mentioned, and so we're going to get into the nuances of other synthetic chemicals and the like, but it should all be on the table. And so thank you so much for bringing that important point up.
Thank you. And
Katie, we do mention PFAS in the resolution, but we'll dig into more details in it.
Great.
And I should say before I unmute Doug that I think the clerk's office will be posting the documents that we're referencing on the open meetings portal after the meeting. But Sean, let me know if I lied.
That's correct. Yep.
So everyone will have access to them through the open meetings portal in the days after the meeting. Okay, Doug, you should be able to unmute yourself and please state your name.
My name is Doug Victor, and I live on Princeton Avenue in Providence, and I am overjoyed. And I must say, I'm jumping up and down in my seat. I just want to thank the task force for your several years of assiduous work to put this forward. And John, thank you for being such a good partner and an environmental steward for our city. And Emily also. And a note for Emily, I love your background. So we need more images like that. So, you know, to remind us, because the media is the message, as Marshall McLuhan once said. So anyways, keep up the great work. The other piece that I would like more thought about is, and I don't think it's included, is styrofoam. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug. Sue, I don't have access to the chat, but I wanted to just post in the chat, or I don't know if the clerk can do that. There is a clause. I think it might be, I'm just thinking off the top of my memory, I think it might be the third or fourth bullet point.
Do you want me to bring up the resolution draft? Is that what you're referencing?
That might be helpful. I I know Katie had a comment about that. So I think that was a very important point that she had mentioned. So I don't know if it's possible to show her the language on it. If you scroll down, I think it's one of the bullet points.
Oh yeah, PFAS is one of the bullet points.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Awesome. And so these will be on the clerks on the portal after the meeting, and we'll work to make sure documents are available on the portal ahead of the meeting and going forward, so folks can see things. Great. So knowing we have a bunch of other things on the agenda, I want to see if there's interest from the task force in making a motion for the ESTF to support this resolution. There was one more slide that I just realized we missed that said that this is likely to be heard by the City Council on January 7th. So just want to make sure folks have that date in their head as well, but want to leave it open for a motion to support the resolution.
Yeah, I think this is fabulous, and I would totally like to make a motion for the ESTF to fully support this resolution going to City Council.
Is there a second to that?
A second.
Awesome. All in favor, please raise your hands so that they're visible. Unless your video is off, and then say aye.
It's a little dark where I am, but my hand is up.
Thanks, Catherine. Jesus, oh, Jesus' hand is up too. Great. Awesome. And I don't see anyone opposed because that was everyone's hand who can vote. So great. We would love to express support. And Councilman, yay, first yay. Would it be helpful for any of us to be at that meeting on the 7th to express support in person, in Zoom, or how can we best be helpful?
City Clerk, do you want to answer that? There's no public hearing, but if you wanted to show up theoretically, you could.
Awesome.
Yes, I mean, there's extremely rare for there to be testimony during a city council meeting, but as all of the panelists on this meeting can see all of the attendees, the council members likewise would be able to see who the attendees are at the meeting. And if you made your name like Chair Andebois ESTF, like, you know, or go, you know, plastics, you know, resolution, or, you know, that's, you can be creative.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. That's very helpful. And I'm happy to reach out to other council members if that's helpful to express our support. Excellent. Well, the next thing on the agenda is the return of Zero Waste Providence. And they're going to talk about their draft resolution in support of composting. And so Katie, you're already promoted, so I left you promoted so you can unmute yourself. And I also have what you sent me ahead of time. I'm happy to share my screen to share what you've sent, which Sean, you already have.
Is it possible to also promote Ainsley? I think she was going to do the presentation.
Oh, yeah. Here she is. Ainsley, you just have to unmute. Yeah, you already did.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to take it away, and then Katie will be back and forth with who talks, who answers questions. So we first brought this to ESTF at your last meeting in November, and there's been a little adjustments to the resolution here and there, but pretty much the same. Sue, if you'd like to put it on the screen, that would be helpful. I'm going to read it in full for those who may have not had a chance to read it or can't see it on the screen. Yeah. Okay, great. So first, I'd like to start off by thanking everyone for your time and commitment to the city's sustainability. I'd also like to mention we have some folks from Zero Waste Providence tuning into this meeting. I'm going to read through the resolution and then open up the floor for discussion and hopefully a vote. We plan for this resolution to be also voted on by City Council at their next meeting on January 7th. And we've had the great support from Councilman Gonzalez to sponsor this resolution and recruit additional council members for sponsorship. We've also met with the Director of Policy, Sean Bouchard, to discuss the merit of our resolution. We like to go into the council meeting with support from ESTF, as we believe a sign off from this committee will emphasize the importance of researching and developing the next steps for the zero waste and carbon neutrality goals. So now I'm going to read through the resolution. It's a bit of a mouthful, so bear with me. Okay. Whereas Providence's climate justice plan identifies the following strategies to build a sustainable economy: increase carbon sequestration in soils through composting, and explore a citywide community composting program and other food waste reduction strategy. And whereas the FY 2020 budget for the City of Providence allocated $3,190,000 to reduce for refuse processing at the Rhode Island Resource Recovery Corporation. And whereas the RIRRC estimates the central landfill to reach maximum capacity in 2034. Once capacity is reached, Rhode Island must commit to higher cost alternatives for disposing of waste, shipping waste out of state, or constructing a new landfill. And whereas in 2019, RIRRC estimated approximately 32% of Rhode Island's waste buried at the central landfill consisted of compostable organics such as food scraps. Whereas compostable organics buried in a landfill become starved for oxygen and emit methane, a greenhouse gas 85 times more potent than carbon dioxide. And whereas the composting process exposes decomposing organics to oxygen, so unnatural methane production is avoided. And whereas separating food waste from the trash receptacle to be composted at a local garden or farm reduces the demand for landfill space and returns nutrients back to Rhode Island soil. And whereas compost is a natural nutrient-rich soil that can replace chemical fertilizers known to pollute waterways and increase algal blooms. And whereas the composting process turns organic matter into a source of community health and wealth as compost assists in the succession of backyard and community gardens. And whereas the COVID-19 crisis has impacted weekly income in many households, and backyard and community gardens are a means to providing food security. And whereas Mayor George Elora has set a goal for Providence to become carbon neutral by 2015, and the composting process sequesters carbon from the atmosphere. Therefore, be it resolved, the members of City Council request the Office of Sustainability, Department of Public Works, and Environmental Sustainability Task Force, and other community groups that represent Providence's diverse constituencies produce a residential composting plan that explores current composting practices in Providence, identifies short and long-term steps to eliminate food waste from the residential waste stream, and establishes a set of principles and values to guide the work. Okay. That was a mouthful, but if Katie wants to add anything, feel free, but I'm also opening the floor to discussion on what everyone thinks about the resolution and moving forward on January 7th.
Thank you so much, Ainsley, for reading the resolution and for the work that you did on the resolution in between our meetings. I'll open it up to task force members for questions first, including Priscilla. I want to make sure you realize you're in this format full member, but no pressure. Yeah, so opening up to task force members first before the public. Seeing none, I will jump in first and ask, when we talk about having the Office of Sustainability, DPW, this task force and other groups produce this plan, how are you guys envisioning that? Is that something that the office would lead and they'd get input from these groups, or is Zero Waste Providence planning to lead it? Like what's like the mechanics of doing this report?
I can start by answering questions, give Andy a little break. I mean, we've been in conversation with Leah and Emily a lot in the drafting of this resolution and talking about this process. And I think it would be a very close collaboration with work both from the City of Providence and Zero Waste Providence. And, you know, potentially some other groups that the Sustainability Office might want to bring in. Emily or Leah, do you have anything that you want to add to that? I think the background is that I think Zero Waste Providence is willing to offer a lot of the legwork and writing the report and in terms of doing outreach and the surveying that we're going to be doing and has a plan for that. And we also have funding for that. And I think that the important thing is that we're very much going to be guided in our work by conversations with the Office of Sustainability.
Leah, were you about to add something? You came off video or came on video.
Yeah, so I think part of this originated in just working with the compost group of Zero Waste Providence and trying to figure out kind of where we can go next and how to build upon the work. Excuse me. And so, yeah, the thinking was that by developing some sort of plan and vision for how the compost system in Providence currently is, how we can get from where we are to a future where we're not sending food waste to the landfill is the goal. And I think that, you know, the work would have to be certainly led by the city, my office, DPW, and with support from Zero Waste Providence, input from all the different stakeholders, other folks in the industry, other composting industry, other resident groups, that sort of thing.
And I think the purpose of not specifically including the name Zero Waste Providence and the therefore be it resolved is that we didn't want to name just us and then somehow make it seem like other organizations within Providence couldn't be involved. So we just wanted to leave it broad and saying that other community groups that represent Providence's diverse constituency rather than Zero Waste Providence.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments from task force members? Okay, not seeing any. You can still pop in a little bit. Are there any questions or comments from the general public? Looking for raised hands. Not seeing any, which is also totally fine. I guess every question was answered and you guys were super thorough. Thaddeus, you just came on video. Do you have a question or are you just on video? Okay, cool. I just didn't want to leave you out. Awesome. Well, this is on the agenda as a potential vote to support the resolution. If there's interest from the task force, is there interest in making that motion?
I'll make a motion to support this resolution.
Awesome. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'd like to second that motion.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine. Everyone who's in favor of supporting the resolution as it's written and as you guys have seen prior, if you could raise your hands and or say aye if you can't come off video. Awesome. Anyone opposed? Awesome. It looks like we have voted to support the resolution. Thank you so much, Katie. And how are we going to be helpful? How are we going to be helpful going forward? We're excited to do so. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I will definitely keep you in touch on how you'd be best committed to this. But we're going to probably meet up with John Gonzalez after this, and then we'll devise a game plan.
Awesome. Great. Please keep us in the loop. However we can best be supportive.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
guys.
much, everyone.
Cool. And if you guys can just remute yourselves, Ainsley and Katie, just as we move to the next portion. Awesome. The next item on our agenda is discussion and potential vote of support for the updates to Providence's comprehensive plan scheduled to be presented to the City Plan Commission in January related to sustainability. And Leah was going to lead us through that, though I believe there's still opportunity for public comment on it. And I'm not sure, so I'll let Leah lead us through this part.
Sure, yeah. Thanks. We can probably be pretty brief here. The short of it is we have an opportunity to revise the environmental sustainability section of the comprehensive plan. And actually, I believe Bob Azar from the planning department is here or was here. Yes, still is here. Great. If there are specific questions about the process. So Sue, perhaps you could promote him to a panelist. So the
Leah, is that
draft.
Robert? Sorry, was that Robert you said?
Azar.
Okay.
Yes.
Keep going. I'm promoting him now.
Yep. So the draft really, it's the very similar language that you would have seen in the climate justice plan, and it's really about institutionalizing that work in our comprehensive plan, which is an important first step to other policy changes that we might want to move forward down the line. And I believe the plan is for this to go before the City Plan Commission on the 19th of January. Bob, could you elaborate a little bit more on the process after it goes to the Plan Commission?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Azar. I'm the Deputy Director of the Planning Department in Providence. So the comprehensive plan is a document that gets ultimately adopted by the City Council, and it forms the basis of a lot of official decision-making that happens in the city. For example, it's the basis of the city's zoning ordinance. It speaks to how we're going to use our land going forward. It forms the basis of how we allocate different land uses. It speaks to all sorts of functional areas like transportation and housing. And actually, the first element of the comprehensive plan is sustainability and the environment. And this section really hasn't been modified since the document was first adopted in, I believe, around 2007. The plan has been modified a couple of times, but that has remained relatively static. And as everybody knows, there's been a lot of really good work that's happened since then in the world of sustainability. And there's been a lot that's happened in transportation and housing and land use. And the document is, it's kind of a beast to sort of amend, to take on the whole thing at once. So we're sort of looking at strategic amendments that'll keep the document relevant, and it'll make sure that the things that we want to have in there are there. It can help with things like grant writing and so forth. And some things need to be in there. Like, for example, if you're going to change the zoning ordinance, there might need to be some language in there that can justify those changes. So at any rate, the process is that the official process is that it has to be heard by the City Plan Commission, and then they make recommendations for changes to the City Council, which also has to hold a hearing and then pass it as an ordinance. What we expect to happen in January is not officially a public hearing, but it'll be more of an introduction and a discussion. We've done this already with some of our housing and land use changes that we want to introduce, although we actually haven't put forth specific language to them in those areas yet. This will be the first time that they're seeing actual language, because Leah's been so good and Emily have been so good at working on potential amendments, and we think we have a draft that's certainly ready to be vetted. So this will be the first of a few steps. It's hard for me to say exactly when we think all of this will, go to a formal public hearing by the City Plan Commission, because I think we want to do that once we have some of these other sections ready to go. But certainly in the next several months, we'll be having further discussions with them about those sections, and then ultimately we'll schedule a public hearing. So I'm hoping that, sometime in the spring, we'll be looking at the public hearing. But again, this is the first step. I think this will be a good opportunity for Leah. I'm assuming, Leah, you'll be there to present to the commission, give them an overview of what you've done to date and what you want to see included in that section. And then I'm sure the commission will have lots of questions and comments. They always offer the public an opportunity to comment. And then that should do it.
Great, thank you, Bob. So hopefully some of you, or hopefully all of you, have had a chance to review it, and I'd love to hear if you have any questions or comments.
Do any ESTF members have questions or comments?
I guess I'll just make a comment. I just really appreciate the changes and the way that things are set out. Specifically, I would like to uplift like the objectives in like housing and building. Feels like very strong, and just seems like a really good space for folks as they're making decisions on development in the city, to have this as a guiding post, so that we're moving towards the plans of eliminating fossil fuels in our buildings and creating spaces that, creating a city that doesn't continue displacement. And so, yeah, I really appreciate these different things, and really engaging with the energy burden of renters and homeowners, especially in these times. And it just these goals leading up to 2050 are really exciting. So I appreciate you all doing the work.
Thanks, Attic.
I haven't had a real chance to look through everything. I'm just kind of reviewing things right now. So I apologize, but just from the cursory review that I've done, it seems like you've done a good job just summarizing. I see lots of points that are just, recent things like the climate justice plan and the community composting and just like lots of the different types of things that we have been talking about more recently. So it seems like a good summary of where the sustainability office and the city is today in terms of like all of our environmental initiatives. So I'll definitely look through it a little bit more and just send any comments if I have any or questions.
Great, thanks, Amelia. And as Bob mentioned, there's certainly plenty of time for comments and further input. So appreciate that.
Just mention that we also try to include some values around environmentally preferable purchasing and reducing toxic chemicals, and really thinking about it as making sure that everything our office is working on is under an umbrella that the comp plan has provided. So if anything was missing, especially the climate justice plan, we wanted to make sure that was included.
I guess this question could be for, I think it was Bob or Robert who was speaking before, or for anyone, either you, Leah, or Emily. What would be like expected pushback as you go onto like in this process of getting this approved? What would be some expected pushback, I guess, maybe in the document, or don't give it, maybe you don't have to give it too much energy, but like something that we could be on the lookout for as a group that we can help support, just so that we're not blindsided as things are moving forward. But are you all expecting for this to move through easily? Are you expecting for it to be something that you have to do more explanation and explaining? Yeah, you can answer that.
Bob, do you want to share any thoughts on that to start, or you want me to?
Well, here's what I would say, that I think for the most part, the ideas that have been put into the section that Leah and Emily have introduced are things that have been already published in the climate justice plan and other documents that have come out of the city. Unlike the climate justice plan, this is a document that actually gets adopted by the city council. So I think you may, as it moves through the commission and ultimately onto the council, there may be some need to explain some of the concepts. And I've said this to Leah and Emily, that there is a discussion in there about environmental justice, and particularly issues of using expressions like white supremacy culture. That's a term I think that a lot of people are probably going to need a lot of time to understand. And I've said that I think that's going to be, there's probably going to be a lot of discussion around that and how it fits in with environmental sustainability. I also think that maybe some of these ideas shouldn't be necessarily just confined to the sustainability section of the comprehensive plan. Maybe they're bigger issues that belong in a separate section. But so, I mean, for me, I think a lot of the sort of principles, the sort of pragmatic objectives and strategies, I think most people will feel comfortable with that and will feel that these are things that we need to be doing to make the city a more sustainable place and to set a better example. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Leah. I am just going to echo that I was really impressed by it. Having read other comp plans, like they aren't using, like I feel like you really capture the work that you're doing and the work that is so vital to the Office of Sustainability and to the city. And I kind of hope that as they read it, as like the CPC reads it, and then also the City Council, that they realize they like that some of these elements should be elevated to be part of the whole comprehensive plan, not just the part about sustainability. So I just very much supportive, and however I can be helpful, would look forward to doing that. Any other questions from or comments from the task force?
No questions. I think it's really comprehensive. Like Amelia mentioned, I also want to just read through it carefully, but it looks so comprehensive and it seems to be capturing everything that the Office of Sustainability and the REJC have been working on in partnership. So that's great. And I just echo those comments that it would be great if some of the things mentioned in this document could be applied to the entire comprehensive plan as sort of overarching principles.
To that process question of a few folks mentioning they'd like to read it a little more carefully, Leah, is there still time for folks to email you with comments, or is it at the part where the CPC has already seen this and so the engagement has moved to the next level?
No, yeah, you can send comments now. You can also, I mean, it's not final until, you know, it's final. And so I actually, maybe this is a process question, Bob, if after the City Plan Commission approves it, does it get workshopped anymore from there with the council, or is it, if any changes happen, would it have to go back to the Planning Commission? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the City Plan Commission, once it holds a public hearing, it will forward it on to the City Council with recommendations. Sometimes the recommendation is approve it as is. Sometimes it's approve it with, you know, these changes. The City Council, the Plan Commission's recommendation is advisory only. The council is free to change it in whatever way it wants, so long as they stay within the bounds of what a comprehensive plan is supposed to do and comply with the law around how you know, comprehensive plans are written. So it could be a work in progress right up through the end of the council's hearing. That's the time at which it becomes a static document and the council's vote on the ordinance adopting it is up or down. The law is pretty clear that any changes have to be made prior to the close of the council's public hearing. So there's all kinds of opportunity between now and then for there to be tweaks to this.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. That's really helpful. So sounds like there's a public hearing on the Plan Commission, and there's a council public hearing as well.
That's right.
So, yep. So I think those would be the meetings to keep an eye on for comment.
And assuming that, and I'll ask this question after I ask, you know, this go out of order, but assuming that the task force votes to support the changes, what would be most useful for you? Like, would like a letter of support be most useful? Would that be at the meeting on the 19th? Would that come later in the process? Like, what would what would support from ESTF look like, so we can figure out what to do?
Yeah, Bob, would you say it'd be the Plan Commission on the 19th hearing support and the process that's been undertaken so far? Would that be of value, or does that wait till the hearing?
No, I think you could when you come to the commission on the 19th, you can report that this has been reviewed by the task force and you know, whatever you want it. And, you know, if they, I don't know, when you guys vote, you know, if you memorialize your votes in the form of a letter, you could do that. you know, you could write a letter to the chair of the City Plan Commission if you want, or you could just, you know, make a verbal statement on the record that it's been reviewed and recommended.
Awesome, thank you. To that question, before I ask this question, are there any other comments or questions from the task force? Also, realizing that this will be posted on the portal after the meeting, so I know the members of the public haven't gotten a chance to see it yet, but want to leave open a few minutes in case you guys have any questions at this point. Otherwise, you'll be able to see the draft on the portal after the meeting. I don't see any hands raised. Awesome. Do task force members feel like they have had ample opportunity? I know I sent it to you last week. Do you feel like you had ample time to review it and potentially support? And if so, do I have a motion or? I'm looking around, I'm staring at you.
What is the motion
No pressure.
to support what? To move it to where?
For Leah to be able to say that the task force has reviewed it and is supportive of the changes at the meeting on the 19th.
Oh, January 19th.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather read it.
Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to read it, I don't want to make you vote on it.
But I'm also happy to just move things forward. I'm sure I will support it, but especially since it's a living document that will be changing most likely.
So, I mean, for me, I've read it, and so I know where I am. I just want to be in consensus with the group. Several people have said that they hadn't had a chance to look at it. When is our next meeting?
Our next meeting will be in January. We haven't set the exact date. I sent some dates to everyone to poll, and let me bring that up right now. But we normally meet on Mondays, so our next meeting would probably be, I mean, we could set it right now because we don't have a next meeting date yet. I think we had been thinking maybe the 18th or 25th, but we could always move this up and have our next meeting be like the 11th or the 18th so we can take the vote prior to the 19th.
So the 18th is Dr. King's birthday.
Oh, yes, thank
like
you.
That holiday. So,
yeah, so not that.
I would probably be moved for the 11th. And would that give you, that'd be enough time so that we could have it before. So I'm good.
Perfect.
With waiting.
Are other folks comfortable with that?
That sounds good to me.
Cool. Is anyone uncomfortable? Priscilla, that's good for you. Catherine and Jesus, does that work for you?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome. So I will send out a calendar invite for that. Let me just make a note. I'll remember the day because that's my husband's birthday. But I'm writing it down. Awesome. Okay. So we will.
Is he okay with that? Do we have to check it because it's his birthday? No? All right.
That's a great question, Maddox. I had the same thought. I was like, is that okay?
Every day is his birthday because it's COVID. Whatever you want.
Yeah, we can just do whatever we want all the time. But I'll just remember it now. But I wrote it down. 111. Now you all know my husband's birthday and you can wish him happy birthday. Awesome. So we will table this for our January meeting where folks will review the document ahead of time. It'll also be posted on the portal so members of the public can see it ahead of time. And then we will hopefully take a vote to support at that point. All right, Leah and Emily, are you comfortable with that?
Yep, that's great. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Great. So we can move on to our next and nearly final agenda item, which is the updates from Leah and Emily on ongoing projects from the Office of Sustainability.
Great, thank you. This is overdue, but I wanted to introduce Rob Hart here, who is our new energy manager. His first day is today, so we're very excited to have him here. Wanted to introduce him to the task force, and I'll let him say hello and introduce himself.
Hello, I'm glad to be introduced to this great group, and it's exciting to see all this work moving forward and to see you all addressing all these important issues. So, but I'm glad to join the city with on the sustainability team. And yeah.
So excited to have you, Rob. Welcome.
Yeah. So Rob will be filling Dino Larson's shoes, working on all things energy, policy related, and municipal buildings as well. So internal and external. We're really excited to have him. We have a lot going on, so it'll be great to have that extra capacity. So speaking of, just a few quick updates. We've covered a lot already that we're working on. I just wanted to mention that community choice aggregation is still, we had a little bit of a setback, as I reported a few months ago, with the lack of an arrears management program particularly for low-income ratepayers who would be switched onto the program. We have resolved that. That will be addressed in the bid process so that if folks who are on a low-income rate in the program, they cannot be pursued for debt obligations should they fall behind on their energy bills. After some time, they'll ultimately get kicked back to the default program. But we won't have that collection that won't be allowed from the energy provider. So that's really important. Going to the PUC shortly. We're hopeful that we can still go out to bid for electricity in a timely manner and get a good rate. The winter, like now, is the best time to do that. So as we get closer to spring, prices tend to go up. And if it's not competitive, we will just have to wait until we have a better window. But hopefully we can still move that forward this winter. Ordinances, so another important date in January 21st. We'll have two ordinances, should have two ordinances being introduced by Councilwoman Anthony and her colleagues on the council. One being the benchmarking ordinance, which is the Building Energy Reporting Ordinance, or BERO. That holds large buildings accountable for their energy use and greenhouse gas emissions, which is the largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in the city. So it's really important. And the second is an ordinance that updates the Office of Sustainability's kind of responsibilities to really institutionalize the climate justice plan and other work we've been doing as of late. Things like making sure we have some oversight on the capital improvement plan, and yeah, our climate targets, our environmental justice goals. This is a policy that the task force has reviewed and commented on about a year ago, I would say. And the other big change it makes to the task force is it creates two designated environmental justice seats to be appointed by the REJC or other EJ group, and two youth seats to be appointed by youth-led organizations. So we're excited to officially have those appointments and mix up the task force a little bit.
Change the name.
And the last,
What'd you say, Emily?
the last, yeah, what was that, Emily?
And that it changes the name of the Sustainability Task Force.
Oh, yes. It just, instead of ESTF, it would just be the Sustainability Advisory Commission, I think. I forget exactly what we chose, but it was a lot less of a mouthful than Environmental Sustainability Task Force. And then the last update is that we are also working on recommendations to the mayor for the mayor's legislative agenda. So if you have strong thoughts or feelings about legislation that we should be supporting as the City of Providence related to our work on climate and sustainability, please contact Emily. That's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Leah. Oh, go ahead, Amelia.
Oh, I'm not sure I like the acronym SAC.
Let me check. I have it open. I'll confirm what that's a good point though.
Leah, can you remind me, and I can look back at the ordinance language, but does it expand the number of members of the ESTF, or does it just add? Okay, good. Okay.
Yep,
So when we add a youth organization, we don't have to ask anyone to leave.
Correct.
Okay, cool. I don't want any of you to leave, is what I'm getting at. Awesome. Any questions for Emily and Leah or comments? My only comment is, wow, you guys are getting so much done. I'm so excited, and I'm excited to have a date for those 2 ordinances. I know we talked about them a while ago, and there was so much excitement and energy. So I'll also reach out to Helen, Anthony, Councilwoman Anthony, and thank her for getting those on the agenda.
It's Sustainability Commission.
Oh, nice. SC. That's,
So,
yeah, not a SAT.
SC.
Awesome. I'll look and see if any members of the public have questions. Nope. Okay, cool. Let me double check if there was anything else on our agenda. No, we always leave a little bit of time at the end for public comment. I will say the councilman had to leave, but he wanted me to let you know that he was really grateful and thankful for the time today and for our support of the 2 resolutions. So we apologize for having to duck out, but wanted to extend his gratitude. Any other public comment? The other public comment I'll share that came in outside of the public comment process was someone emailed earlier, and just as a heads up, Michael Bradley, who participated earlier, asked if we could have another presentation about composting in the future. And so that's something that has been flagged as a potential interest for a future topic of 2021 meeting. Okay, well, not seeing any other public comment or anybody chomping at the bit to make any other comments. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do you guys just want to hang out all night, or?
I'll propose a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A second.
Thanks, Jesus. All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Anyone opposed? Okay, awesome. Seeing no opposition. Everyone have a really wonderful new year. It's been wonderful serving on the task force with you this year, and I look forward to seeing you on January 11th.